Hey, everybody. Thanks for being here. My name is Matt. I'm the director here at Roulette. I'm just going to hype two things real quick. So this workshop is part of an incredible run of events in the lead up to our gala, which is in honor of the Robert Ashley Band, all of the major collaborators on Robert Ashley's operas over the many years. We're also honoring Thomas Buckner and Kamala Buckner. Tom is also a member, long-running member of the Robert Ashley Band in many of Bob's operas. We still have some mezzanine tickets available. Those are tickets in our balcony. They cost $150. It's actually an incredible deal. It comes with food, an open bar, and it goes to support experimental music at Roulette. So while there are tickets still available, and I imagine that since you're here, you're interested in Robert Ashley's work and would value contributing to the honoring of this incredible cohort of artists that worked with Bob over the many years. So please check it out, roulette.org. Then the other thing I wanted to tell you about, and if you have any questions, I want to introduce Emily Bookwalter, our Director of Development. She's in the back of the room here. If you have questions about the gala, anything, find Emily and talk to her. Then the other thing I want to tell you about is that this is part of an ongoing workshop series we're doing here at Roulette. We do them around special programming. We've recently made all of the workshops free to all of our members. I wanted to tell you that because it's a really great time to be a member at Roulette, and it's also an incredible deal. We have 3 tiers that give you different benefits, free tickets for concerts at Roulette over the course of the seasonal year, discounts at the bar, discounts on merch. Oh man, we made some dope merch. We made new merch. So this is some Anthony Braxton merch from last year's gala. Anthony was our honoree last year at our gala. This year we have some new merch that features the original score for Perfect Lives. And I want to say thank you to Mimi for letting us make this incredible. We made a hat that says, "Whoa, long live the avant-garde." And we have a tote that features the whole page of the score from the church from Perfect Lives. So those are my hype speeches. Please visit roulette.org. Consider becoming a member. Thank you so much for being here. And I want to say thank you to Gelsey and Dave and Brian for leading this workshop. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Gelsey.
Okay. Hi, you guys. Okay, before I forget, I just want to say we did run out of handouts. But there is a handout. Hopefully you guys can share. And hopefully if there's a whole crew of people that need a handout, some folks that have more will share with them. Does anyone need, is there a certain section that is in need? Maybe if someone wants to hand one down to the last row, that's awesome. There we go. We're already working as a community. Beautiful. Wonderful having some conversations before this started with people at the score table. If you saw anything at the score table, leave it at the score table, because there are all my scores and I will need them again. When we're done, that will also be there. So if there are any of these pieces that we talk through that you want to look through more, you will have, these are available for you to peruse. Okay, what shall I say? Hello, I'm Gelsey Bell. I'm here with Dave Reuter and Brian McCorkle. We are all people who perform Robert Ashley's work. That is why we are here. We have a group called Verispeed. We have another Speedy somewhere in the audience, Eliza Simons, yes. And we originally came together to make new arrangements of Bob's work. Probably the one we've done the most is Perfect Lives. We also were in a revival of Bob's early piece, That Morning Thing, at the Kitchen in 2011. Dave remembers all the dates. It's great. We also were part of the original cast for Bob's final opera, Crash, and many of the revivals of his pieces we have been in the cast of, including many on this stage, such as Celestial Excursions, which we did recently. So that's why we're here. This is all coming from many years of spending time with this work, performing this work, and teaching it. Okay, so the way this is gonna go is that this workshop is probably gonna be around 2 hours. We haven't built in breaks, so if you have to go to the bathroom, just go to the bathroom when you need to go. I'm gonna throw out some ideas in this beginning intro mode, but then we're gonna spend a majority of the time looking through examples from Bob's work, from a whole array of stuff. So the handout that you have is all the examples that we are going to work on with you vocalizing. If you don't want to vocalize, you don't have to. It's totally fine. But we're hoping to give you a better look behind the screen, under the hood, with these specific examples. Okay, so I am also just going to start by giving a few of my take on Bob's work and what it has given me as a vocalist. Having, trained in opera, in jazz, in musical theater, there are certain, I really approach Bob's work as a vocal technique, and it has given me a nuanced vocal technique that I haven't found anywhere else, and that I think has a lot to offer, alongside just all the compositional and textual innovations. So I think that part of this is about walking that line between speech and song. And thinking through what are kind of the natural musics that we all hold in our voices that we're using. So to start analyzing this, I want us to have a moment of analyzing just our voices. So I'm gonna have the three of us are gonna talk about something very mundane, like what we had for breakfast this morning, but I want you guys to all listen to the musical qualities of what we're saying. So what's happening in pitch, what's happening in contour, in rhythm, if the pitch is moving all over the place, if it's staying in a similar place, all of these kind of ways that we analyze music, I want you to not worry about the content and actually analyze the music of it. So Brian, do you want to start by telling us what you had for breakfast?
Sure. So I woke up this morning and I drank about half a pot of coffee that was cold from the night before. And then I knew I had to eat some food because I was going to come to do this today. And so I went to the fridge and I remembered that a friend had given me a bunch of eggs and that I had some leftover like pieces of burned bacon with like cumin and garlic in it. And so I put the bacon in the pan, and then I put some butter in the pan, and then I put the eggs in the pan, and then I put some salt on the eggs, and then I put some spinach on there, and then I just scraped it all around. And then I put it on a tortilla, and then I put a bunch of hot sauce on it, and that's what I have for breakfast.
Beautiful. Does anyone want to say anything that they kind of heard, what kinds of music they heard and the way Brian speaks? Yeah.
Well, he's constantly going back to a low tone. Just the phrases constantly rise and fall immediately back to that reference tone.
Yeah, exactly. So there's this reference tone that is falling and coming back to. Totally, for sure. Anything else? Yeah.
Each of those phrases starts out with a quicker rhythm and then a slower rhythm at the end before the fall.
Yeah, that's great. Starts with a quicker rhythm and then comes back. And there was that really virtuosic long fall that we got halfway through. It was so beautiful. I'm not doing this to make anyone insecure.
I didn't do any of that on purpose, by the way.
I know, exactly. Was there anything else to add to that? Yeah.
Elongation of double letters like egg.
Yeah, elongation of double letters. Yeah.
When you were getting really into the pan discussion, it was like kind of like you were trying to like rush through it, and so it squeezed almost like in your throat, like very staccato.
Yeah, right. These staccato kind of acceleration of tempo started happening. I bet we have more thoughts. I'm going to move to Dave's just so that we can keep moving along. Dave, tell us about what you had for breakfast.
So I had cereal, and what I like to do with cereal is you make a cereal cocktail. You put one kind of cereal halfway in, and then another kind of cereal the other half when one is kind of sweet and the other's not that sweet. So one was like puffed rice, and the other was, I don't know, something sweeter than that. And then put some oat milk on that, and then cut up some banana on top.
Lovely. Okay, what did we hear there? Yeah.
Pitch went up for words like sweet and that.
Yeah. And it's almost like those higher, the pitches went up for sweet and that, and it's almost like those higher pitches made their own little melody that was in relation to it. Yeah.
It was mostly in 5/4.
Whoa, it was mostly in 5/4. That's great. This is amazing. Yeah.
It's sort of like a motif that you come to. So, you talk about doing something and then, the repeat of it and the repeat of it. So it becomes a sort of a motif that you keep coming back to.
Yeah, that's great. Motif kind of phrase work.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah?
Yeah, it started with almost 4 slower notes that were pitched a bit higher. It was almost like there was a melodic head to it, and then it kind of descended a bit and got a little quicker.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, that's great. Do we need me to also describe my breakfast, or do we get the idea? I think we get the idea. I just had cereal. It's fine. Okay, okay. I want to share, with all of this in mind, I want to share a quick audio clip from an interview that I did with Bob in 2013 when I was researching my dissertation, where Bob is talking about his own voice.
You have to forgive me for this, but ever since I was old enough to be told, everybody has always said to me, I mean, really, a lot of people, God, when you speak, it sounds just like you're singing.
Yeah.
And I said, thank you. And then, so it's a lot of, I think a lot of it has to do with my voice.
That makes sense.
In other words, I've had my voice since I was 15 years old.
Right.
And I like it.
Yeah.
I like my voice.
Yeah.
So I write things from my voice.
And so do other people. Yeah.
So I write things from my voice.
When you write for other people, do you feel like you write for yourself and then you give it to other people?
I start writing for myself, and then as soon as I can, I can't start by thinking about how Joan would say it, or how Jackie would say it, or how Sam would say it. I can't do that. But once I get the idea going, I can start hearing Jackie singing it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's I can't tell you when it happens, but I just gradually, she's doing.
Right. She takes over.
She's taking the words that are in here, and she's like singing them.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's the way I like it.
Okay, so Bob's voice, his own voice, is kind of paramount in this work. But that said, it's not ever about imitating Bob. And it's not ever about trying to sound the way he sounds. It's always about finding the own music that is inherent in your own voice and finding ways that you use your personal music to then fit into the characters that he has come up with. One of the other ideas that I find really useful and inspiring of Bob's is this idea that the way a composer speaks is similar to their music. So he has this video documentary, a kind of opera perhaps, called Music with Roots in the Ether, which probably some of you have heard or watched. And part of the idea of that piece is that every composer, the way they speak is related to the way they make music. And so the first hour of every episode is a conversation with the composer, and then the second hour is hearing their music. And so I just want to play this quick clip of the episode with Pauline Oliveras, so you can hear the musicality of how she speaks, and then the way it relates to the music that she made.
The ideas that you've developed about anxiety, and that anxiety being in the music. I think it is in certain kinds of music. It comes through.
It's not in your music.
No,
I didn't
no,
mean
no,
that.
no. I know you didn't mean that, but I mean
Yeah.
projecting it in other music. I think that it has to be a little more specific, perhaps, to understand what we're talking about. But I'm talking about the kind of performance anxiety that I had. Also, I think there was an anxious kind of movement in the music that I wrote at the end of the 50s.
Yeah.
And that all through the 60s there was sort of a dissolving and a working with that kind of anxiety, fragmentation and dissolution of tonality, say, and dissolution of musical materials that had come from all of that time.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, is this making sense? Yeah? It's okay, cool. To at least some people in the room. Okay, so, with this kind of idea in mind, then I want us to start thinking about this line between speech and song. And someone that has helped me really look at that line is scientist Diana Deutsch. Maybe some of you have heard of her before. Yeah, right? So this, if you want to know more about the speech-to-song illusion, go to her website. There's a lot more that goes into it, but I just want to start with the beginning of the illusion, because I think it will be useful. So I'm not going to read all that stuff to you. Listen to this sound demo and see where it takes you.
The sounds as they appear to you are not only different from those that are really present, but they sometimes behave so strangely as to seem quite impossible. But they sometimes behave so strangely, 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 so strangely, so strangely, so strangely, so strangely.
So the idea is that at some point in listening to that for a minute or so, it went from hearing like speech to hearing like song. Yes? Did that happen to most of you? Yes, great, wonderful. And where that moment is, where it switches from speech to song, is different for every person. And I think that idea of the subjectivity of hearing that line between speech and song is very present with all the work of Robert Ashley. Let's play the second sound demo and see what happens.
The sounds as they appear to you are not only different from those that are really present, but they sometimes behave so strangely as to seem quite impossible.
So in this second one, did it sound like all of a sudden the part that you heard over and over and kind of became song and then went back to speech? Yeah, right? So part of it is also this, the recording hasn't changed at all. So the first time you heard it, it just all sounded like speech. But you learn to hear it as song. And then once you learn to hear it as song, it keeps sounding like song. But nothing has actually changed in the, the physical wave of the sound. So part of hearing that line between speech and song that is so active in this work is also what is just happening in our ears, and that's gonna be different for every person. Okay, so let's see. I just wanna make one more point. Just one more introductory idea that I think is really wonderful that comes from Bob, and that's this idea that the music of opera should be connected to the music of the language that it's in, right? And so that when we think about traditional bel canto opera, that was created in the Italian language, a language that has these pure vowels that sound incredible in these long legatos. And so that when he approached making opera in the English language, he wanted to bring out what he heard of the musicality of English, the consonants, the tempo. He wanted the music to be able to just have more stuff happening quicker, and was very inspired by what happened in rock music, which when he started, he felt like that's getting the closest to the musicality built for the English language. Do we have any questions before we move on to examples? Yeah?
I actually was just wondering, with this illusion, how much of it would you say is affected by, like, I felt like I could hear it very well in the recorded example, and I wondered how that might be different if it was live. Because it was like exactly the same, repeated every single time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good question. The question is, would it be different, like, is there a change between recorded media and live media? I actually have no idea, not being a speech scientist. But I feel like I don't know, do either of you have thoughts?
When you hear Diana Deutsch talk about it, something that particular example, the origin of that particular example was that it was recorded. She had recorded it and went back to listen herself. Again, we're not people who are doing this investigation herself, but I think like it's definitely worth looking into. I think there's something to the particular way that she came to articulate this that does relate to recordings, but I don't know that it's exclusive to that.
Yeah.
Do you have an idea of what influence Bob's time at the University of Michigan's Speech Research Lab had on his later work? Because he was like active there from like 58 to 60 or so.
Yeah. Do you have thoughts on this?
Yeah, my understanding, and maybe Mimi can correct me if I'm wrong, was that he spent time working there. He basically had done the equivalent of a PhD, but did not like get awarded that PhD, did not finish doing that. And I think that it was immense. I mean, I think particularly in some of the pieces of the 60s, like I'm also thinking about some pieces from the 70s, like the piece for Stutterer that he wrote for Alvin Lucier called Fancy Free,
yeah.
Where like there's a lot about the mechanics of producing sound that goes into the structure of making that piece. I think by the time we're getting into the operas that we're looking at today, which is mostly starting by the late 70s, it's more kind of baked in to the work than really surface level obvious, but.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that really for me, the most, wow, that was an interesting mic thing. For me, like, first of all, I went to University of Michigan, so this question is great. I think that the piece that best exemplifies Bob's understanding of and working with speech in this way is in Sarah Menkenkreist and Beethoven, There Were Women and Men, his approach to Wogelmann. So I would say that like that's probably like, in the operas it doesn't really come up in that same way. It's more about the content and the writing as material for music.
Yeah, but this is totally me just making an assumption.
Yeah, we're just making assumptions.
But I would imagine that like the kind of close listening that he did doing that work did a lot to help him find this way to really, what's the word? Make techniques around vocal nuance, if that makes sense. Yeah. Any other questions before we keep going? Okay, we'll have more times for that. Okay, I just want to do a quick vocal warm-up with you guys, and then we're going to jump into some things. So, obviously, if any of you are like, I don't want to vocalize, I don't want to stand up, just, that's fine. Do whatever you want to do. But for those of you who want a little warm-up, let's get you standing up. Okay, we're going to stretch up to the sky for the left arm, and then the right arm stretching to the sky. Wonderful. And then we're going to let it go. We're not gonna fall down to the floor because I don't want anyone to hurt themselves. Let's just do a tongue roll. So you just stick your tongue out and then make a circle. So great, and then stick it out and go in the other direction. Beautiful, wonderful. And now we're just gonna hum while we kind of make a chewing. You're just opening your jaw up and just hum in a really easy part of your register. Great, beautiful, this is lovely. Now I want us to do a lip trill while we do a siren. Lip trills are just, if you've never done them before, it might be a little hard, that's fine, don't worry about it. If you're having trouble and you want to try it, you can put your fingers right here on your cheeks like this, yeah. Thank you, Brian. We're just gonna go from low in our registers to high in our registers. So it's not about matching pitch with anyone, it's just from going low to high. Beautiful, and let's do it again. Okay, great, and now we're gonna, without the lip trill, just make a siren. Ooh. And so try to go from the very lowest part of your range to the very highest part of your range. Ooh. Beautiful. Okay, now we're just going to do a quick articulator, the most basic theater vocal thing you ever do. Just unique New York, New York, unique. You just repeat that with me. Unique New York, New York, unique. Beautiful. Now we're going to say it 3 times as fast as we can. Unique New York, unique, unique. Unique New York, New York, unique. Unique New York, New York, unique. Beautiful. Now you're a little warmer than you were before. Have a seat. I'm going to hand it over to you, Dave.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dave. Hi, Dave. Okay, so we're going to start to get into some specific pieces and scores. And we're going to start with That Morning Thing, which was created in the late 60s in the context of the Once group in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Performed only a handful of times, and we were all fortunate enough to be part of a restaging in 2011 of That Morning Thing at the Kitchen. This is us sitting at Bob's feet, and it was incredibly helpful in this process. This was the first time we were all working directly with him to understand what was the proper way to approach this material. And one part of this piece that I already knew, that some of you might already know, the sort of maybe the most well-known extract of this piece is She Was a Visitor, which comes from the end of this piece. And what was revealing to me in the process of learning this piece and performing it was that I had not previously realized there was a metered score, there was a rhythmically set score for this work. Very illuminating. And before I talk about it, let's just listen to a little bit of one of the official recordings of She Was a Visitor.
She was a visitor. She was a visitor. She was a visitor. She was a visitor. She was a visitor. She was a visitor. She was a visitor. She was a visitor. She was a visitor. She was a visitor. She was a visitor.
Now, this is only a small part of the score. As it says up there, this is not the main event. But the thing that we are focusing on here is that lead voice, that one voice speaking, she was a visitor. And you'll note, if you're looking carefully, that what it says on the score and what's in the recording, it does not match perfectly. But again, for me, this was illuminating as a kind of early way of approaching this. Unlike most of the later works, in fact, all of the later works that we're talking about, you have a tempo and a meter that are specific. Well, that's that is the case in those ones, but the way that it's written is what I want to get at. This is written with a time signature of 3/4, and there's like a bar line and repeats and everything. And so if you were going to, for me, with the way that I was trained in music, if I were looking at this, I would approach this and think, oh, she was a visitor. She was a visitor. There's something that normally happens where we naturally emphasize the strong beat of the meter, in this case in a bar of 3/4 on the downbeat. And what you're hearing when you listen to that recording that we just played is something that feels different. It feels more kind of speech-like. The beats are even. So, instead of that she was a visitor with the emphasis on the V syllable, it's more she was a visitor. She was a visitor, where things are more even. But it was still interesting. It's not necessarily the case, and there are different performances of this piece where you might have more of a strong emphasis than what was happening in that recording. But it's just interesting to me to encounter the score in this way and think about how it might sound if you did it more literally this way. So we're going to do together now. You're going to start to get welcomed into these scores. We're going to do sort of a more literal version of She Was a Visitor, and we're also going to flip the piece. Normally there's one person saying she was a visitor and everyone else is making these other phoneme sounds. We're going to all do the saying of She Was a Visitor together. So if you are not someone who historically reads music, that is okay. Just going to talk you through how this will work, and then we will do it. I'm going to give you 2 beats, and then on the third beat, you say she was a first beat visitor, and then there's a beat of rest, right? So there's 3 beats, and inside 2 of those beats, we are fitting 3 syllables. But we are not going to go she was a visitor, she was a visitor, where we're hitting that downbeat really hard. It's just kind of a more gentle, she was a visitor. She was a visitor. So let us all try that together, right? I'm going to give you 2 beats, and then we'll come in on the third beat. So 1, 2.
She was a visitor. 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 She was a visitor.
Okay, that's just our initial little look into a score. That's all we're going to do with that morning thing, and I'm going to pass the microphone now.
So, hi. Now we're going to dive into a little bit of Perfect Lives. Perfect Lives is where the operas really start to take the form that they took, especially later in Bob's life. We have some of the original note cards over here printed out on the table after this workshop. If you'd like to look at them, they're there. What you'll see in your handout is actually something I've made just for the purposes of this workshop that follows the original note cards in terms of its notation structure. So let's just go over what that is first. And we'll do that by looking at the original note cards. And so, let me just, this mic is attached to the stand. Hold on. Oh, thank you. Yeah, sure. I was just gonna get up and move around. Hope that's okay. Thanks, Kelsey. So, picking up where Dave left off, we kind of all got the the experience of all being a soloist together. But a big part of Bob's work, especially when it comes to Perfect Lives, is that there's a soloist and that there's a chorus. And the chorus plays a very important role. So now that we've all had a moment to be the soloist, let's take a moment to be the chorus. So where it says boogie up here, 4 measures. First, that's where we start what's in your handout. And I'm going to say a bit more about this before I go on with the note cards, which is that this episode is the bar. It's episode number 4. There's going to be a lot of numbers flying around, so I'm going to try to make this super clear, so please raise your hand if you're like, that was not clear. So this is episode number 4, the bar, and the bar is in 7/4. So that's why you see these 4 asterisks. Now, when you see an asterisk in Perfect Lives, in the notation, typically, almost always, it means just emptiness, an empty beat. And when you see an underline, often that is where the beat should fall. So, Gelsey, it looked as if you wanted to clarify something.
You said it.
Oh, great. So your handout, you'll notice, starts with what we see back on that note card as CCEE, CCGG, CCBB, CCGG. So this brings up another really important part of Bob's work for me as a performer and for, I think, for most of my compatriots here, which is that a lot of times the notation is very clear in terms of what it wants you to do, but it's not always clear when you listen to the recording what the interpretation is, which makes it so fun. I actually love that part of it. And so I'd like to play a quick video of David Van Tighem and Jill Crozen talking about what it was like to be in the chorus of Perfect Lives in this original production, or one of the original productions.
We were told who we are in a certain way with different people in different episodes, although I don't remember what they are. I actually don't concern myself with that too much because since there's no real drama or acting involved, we're just singing and trying to read our parts. I don't really act like somebody different in each thing. I kind of let Bob worry about who we are through what he's saying.
If you were or in the skies, sometimes Bob might decide that we should sing the sentence along with him, or he might decide that we should all of a sudden say this word at this particular time, and we didn't really know before. Certain things are prescribed, certain things aren't, so the things that are prescribed even, we don't necessarily always do. I might stop for a while, or we might do more, so we never really know.
Great. So that's from Peter Greenaway's 4 American composers, one of whom is Robert Ashley. I highly recommend it if you haven't seen it already. It's fantastic. And sorry for the quality on that video. But thank you to UbuWeb for providing it. So I should say some more about Perfect Lives before we go back into the score. Sorry, I'm a little scatterbrained. I hope you all don't mind. Does anybody have any questions before I keep going in this weird way? No? Okay, excellent. So going back into the score, could you go to the first note card? Thank you. So you'll see in the first note card, there's no CCEE, CCGG, CCBB, CCGG there. It's an empty bar, right? But if you listen to the recording, Jill always comes in on the downbeat. And I think, depending on the performance you're listening to, she'll come in on that downbeat, but maybe she'll come in on a downbeat a few measures later, but she always comes in on the downbeat. David Van Tighem usually comes in on the 4 or the 5, sometimes the 6. We're going to do it Jill Crozen style, and we're going to keep it very simple. So let's just go back to the score, and I'll walk everybody through it, and then we'll look a little bit more at the note cards after we've had a chance to really understand what we're going to try to do.
Can I just add something really quickly? I feel like something that Brian is bringing into this, which is so important, is that when we're putting these performances together, we always are using both the written score and the recording, and any recordings of performances we hear in order to understand what the true work is, so that the recordings are always part of what we are paying attention to. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you, gals. So you can look at this handout that I've given you as being in 3 main parts, right? The first main part is C, C, E, E, C, C, G, G, C, C, B, B, C, C, G, G, and then rest for three beats. So let's just try that all together super slowly. I'm gonna count 5, 6, 7, and then we'll all come in. You don't have to read it in any pitch or anything, but note that the first CC is underlined and EE is not. So that underline means that it goes CC, EE. So EE occurs on the offbeat, right? So let's try that. So it'll go 5, 6, 7, CC, EE, CC, GG, CC, BB, CC, GG. 5, 6. Let's do it again. CC, EE, CC, GG, CC, BB, CC, GG. Great. Beautiful. So I didn't hear a lot of sound coming from this direction. So does anyone feel uncomfortable so far? Because this is just the beginning of using this notation system. So if you're already confused, please speak up so that I can help you.
So those are the actual words on the recording, CC and EE and CC? Is that what it said?
That's right. If you listen to this moment in the bar, you'll hear them in the background going CC, EE, CC, GG, CC, BB, CC, GG.
Boogie woogie chords.
Yeah, boogie woogie chords. So you're gonna hear okay, I'll tell you all the plan so you know where we're going with this, because it seems like maybe everybody's like, where are we going with this here? So I'll tell you. We're gonna learn these 3 parts, one of which is nothing, the one in the middle, it's nothing. So that one's gonna be super easy. So we're gonna learn these 3 parts, and then I'm gonna play piano, Gelsey's gonna do the solo, and we're gonna have an experience of what it's like to be in the chorus of Perfect Lives, which, to further elaborate on what Gelsey was saying, is how I got involved in this work in the first place, working on Perfect Lives and being the chorus and arranging this work. It's a wonderful thing, and part of the wonderful thing to me about it is this notation system. So I'm super excited to teach it to you. But I really want to hear your voices a lot more. So I want to try doing let's just do all 4 of these CCE, CCGG, CCBB, CCGGs. We'll just do all 4. Yes, Ainsley.
What's it sounds the same to me when you're saying the end CCGG, but the C has this line. Is the line doing something?
The line is indicating where the beat falls. So the bar is in 7/4, so there's 7 beats to each measure. And so when you look up here and you see CC, that underline indicates that C is where the downbeat falls of that beat.
But what can be confusing when you're starting off is that it doesn't mean emphasize, right? So it doesn't mean that that's stronger than the other stuff. It just means we're not in standard notation measure world. We're just using these underlines to understand where in the measure we would be if we were. Yeah?
Yeah.
Sure.
Sure.
Is that the 3 empty underlined asterisks look like they're paralleling the CCEE line rather than being a separate, rather than being the 3 beats after.
Exactly.
Fair.
Just to clarify and restate for the video too, there are 7 beats in each of these lines. We're calling it a line, but it's really 2 lines up here. The first line is the one with 4 underlines that says CCEE, CCBB, CCGG. And then there's 3 empty beats after that. That is what constitutes 1 line of 7 beats.
And Dave, could you go to the next slide really quick?
Sure, I can.
The reason why it's like that is because the original notation is almost like that. And I wanted to, when I made you this handout, I wanted to make it as close to the original as possible, because that's really what this workshop is about, is trying to put you in touch with what the original notation is and what these ensembles are working with and how they're working. So could you go back to the handout? Thank you. Was there other questions? I saw their hands up. Hey, Abby.
So the next slide is what you were given when you were learning this work.
Actually, it's what, so, okay, that's a whole other question that I'd love to answer. I will just say no for now.
Okay, and can I say for later, as a non-music person, is there going to be, you can tell us how this all developed as a system of notation at all?
We're gonna touch on that a little bit later, yes.
Yeah, we'll do our best, but you know. All right, so first, I just want you to do this with me. I promise, it's gonna be fun. Just bear with me. Okay, so starting from the top, 5, 6, 7. CCEE, CCGG, CCBB, CCGG. Thank you. One more time. 7. CCEE, CCGG, CCBB, CCGG. Great, perfect. All right, so now let's skip down to the bottom. So now at the bottom, you see another way that this notation is used, similar to that above. So in the same way that that CC comes on the downbeat, CC. And then on the upbeat, we say EE. Down here, you've got chew, crash, blank, crash, etc. And notice down at the bottom that he's changed it up a little bit. So that etc., phew, that all happens on the downbeat. So when we get to that part, it's gonna get a little interesting. But I want us to try this bottom part now that we've talked about the notation quite a bit, and then we'll try it with a soloist and with a pianist. So y'all are gonna be in the deep end. Welcome to the deep end. You have a question, yes?
Just a quick one.
Of course.
So for example, with the star chew, star crash, star blink, what's the reason for it to be offset so that it doesn't begin at the start of the line? Like, you know, you've got star crash, star left, star forward. So I'm just trying to understand what the notation means of that offset.
Sure. So when we look at the, could you go back to the note card again, actually? And go forward a little bit. And go forward again. Yeah, now go back, sorry. Thank you, Dave. I'm like backseat driving over here. So you'll see in the notation here, that is for the musicians among us. When, I don't know about y'all, but when I do something in 7/4, I think of it as either a group of 4 and then a group of 3, or a group of 3 and then a group of 4, right? And so throughout this episode of The Bar, Bob is constantly playing with it. And in fact, if you look up there on the upper left-hand corner, you'll see a 3 and a 4 to indicate that when he's reading those words, he's gonna count 3 beats for vast pauses between cow events, and then 4 beats for are illuminated by the crashing of the cosmos. And that actually flips it. So CCEE, CCGG, CCBB, CCGG, that part is 4/3. Whereas the cowlick, as we call it, is 3/4. Another question?
Sorry, I think just to answer the other part of that question too.
Sure.
The reason here and there that they're offset is because it doesn't start there. It starts with a rest. It starts with an eighth rest, if you want to think of it that way. So the reason, unlike CCEE, CCGG, right, it starts with the thing that's underlined because the first beat, there's sound happening. In this case, there's nothing happening on that first beat.
Yeah, so often, sorry, that was loud. Often you can kind of see the asterisk as a rest, if that helps your brain communicate. Yeah.
It basically is. What's up? What's up, Chris?
Do you know what specific rhythm the text is going to be when it's on?
We will get to that later. As a well, usually when we do these choruses, right, it's usually pretty clear. Can you go back to the handout? Thank you so much, Dave. So when you're in a chorus part, right, usually it's pretty clear. So the CCE, CCGG, CCBB, CCGG, I wonder how many times I'm going to say that tonight, and the chew, crash, it's pretty clear, right, what the rhythm is that's being indicated there relative to the more soloistic lines. That's on purpose, and that it gives this music a very specific effect. And also, I think because Bob was really interested in natural speech, his own and that of others, what people say, how they say it, you know, what I had for breakfast this morning. When you free up the soloist in that way, then you encourage the more natural song to just come out. And so leaving it open kind of gives kind of like what Van Teegum was saying, like there's not a character, there's not a role, but there is a voice. And that singing that comes through, if it's too choked by rhythmic decisions, it just doesn't sound quite right, you know what I mean? So it's like, Bob is really interested in what people say and how they say it. And just in case any of you get ideas about pitches, back when we were in that room and that picture for that morning thing, I was singing a little bit at one point, and Bob said to me, "I'm not interested in pitch development." So I had to learn that, really, I had to learn that lesson. All right, so now I want us to try just doing this, because we're running out of time. I just want to do this with y'all, and then we'll move on to some other stuff, because we got a lot of really, really fun examples to do today. So, Gelsey, do you mind doing the solo?
Yeah.
And Dave, do you mind making the downbeat really clear?
Sure.
So in this excerpt that we're about to do, Gelsey is Rodney. played by Robert Ashley. Well, we got some Perfect Lives people in here. All right, so I'll count off 5. Actually, can you count off? No, I'll count off 5, 6, 7. And if you're confused about where the downbeat is, look to Dave. He's going to make it super clear. And we're going to try to perform this all together while Gelsey does the chorus. All right, ready? From the very top of the page all the way down. 5, 6, 7.
C C E E C C G G C C G G C C B. C C E E C C G G.
Always.
C C E E.
Especially in the morning, sometimes in the afternoon, and always through the night.
C C E E C C G G C C B B C C G G.
Industry. How it differs in the cows, Rodney thinks, who simply stand there looking out. Vast pauses between cow events are illuminated by the crashing of the cosmos.
Crash, blink, crash, left, foreleg, forward, crash, rear, right leg, forward, crash, 2, crash, blink, crash, etc., etc.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you all. So much more to say about Perfect Lives, but I think I would like to.
Yeah.
we
There's
gotta keep moving.
I just want to say one thing is that also all of Perfect Lives is at 72 beats per minute. Can't remember if that was said or not. And all of these operas have a very set tempo. And I don't know if you want to quickly say something about the tempo aspect of that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Gelsey. So yeah, and like I said, there's so much. We could do a whole workshop just on this piece. It's incredible. But it was set at 72 beats per minute to unite the various mediums. It made it easier to cut for the video people. It made it easier to track for the sound people. It made it easier for the electronic musician, Peter Gordon in this case, to make the backing track, which I should also mention. The backing track for Perfect Lives is always there. When you listen to these records, you can hear this beautiful organ kind of pumping this rhythm back there with the bass. That is the beginning of what would later become the click track. So we move from a video screen with those note cards on it, with somebody moving the cards, to an in-ear click track. And we'll come back to that later.
Something that I want to set you up for here, Brian, too. First off, yes, to be clear, these are things that are being projected on television screens for the performers at the front of the screen. But the other way that we came to see this, the other two things that I think, Brian, you wanted to talk about. Do you want to talk about this?
No, just show it.
Show it. Okay. This is the Burning Books version of the score, which is commercially available. Gelsey has one here, and there's one over there.
And oh, actually, yeah, you're right, Dave. I should mention that when I wrote in this in around 2012, you can see up there on the left side of the page, it says, reveal actual note cards from Bob's original. Little did I know I'd be doing that today. More coincidences with Bob.
Cool. All right.
Do we have any questions before we move on? No, okay, we're just gonna keep going. All the Perfect Lives can simmer as these other examples show up. Okay, so now we're going to go straight ahead to Bob's last opera, Crash, which is a cappella and is for 6 voices. And I think because of the a cappella 6-voice nature of it, it is a natural introduction to some of this stuff as well. The opera has, what do I need to say? There are 3 characters in the opera, and the 6 performers all take turns for these over the 6 acts playing each of those characters. And like I said in the introduction, we are not trying to make those characters sound exactly the same. We are all finding our own into those characters and our own way of interpreting them. So the first character is the thought character, and this is someone talking on the phone, just quietly talking to someone they know really well. And also every thought section ends with a yeah. And the yeah is responding to who's ever on the phone. And so I just want us to give a quick demonstration of that. This is, by the way, in your handout. It should be like the next page. We're just going to do the first like 2 sentences of thought number 1, just to give you a sense of like how they can be different. We all have our different ways of doing it. So now I'm going to do it. Okay. For a long time, he'd been fighting the possibility that the idea truly works only for him, and that it's not just a superstition. Yeah.
For a long time, he's been fighting the possibility that the idea truly works only for him, and that it's not just a superstition. Yeah.
For a long time, he's been fighting the possibility that the something works only for him. Oh yeah, the idea, and it's not just a superstition. Yeah, because for me, the important part of this is that you're on the phone. Anyway.
Yes, but we didn't actually do this in performance.
No, of course. I sometimes did in rehearsal, though, I admit.
But yeah, maybe in rehearsal, totally. Okay, so then the next character is the crash character. And the crash character, I would say, is the most quote-unquote sung. It's elongating the pitches that one finds the most, if that makes sense. And I really think of it as kind of just like cruising on this wave with the melody. There still are all the glissandes that you have in natural speech, but maybe you're just staying on those pitches a little bit longer so it feels a little closer to song. And in terms of the character, Bob wrote in the intro that this style of singing is abstract, not personal, as in reading a poem, and it is sympathetic to the person and the situation being described. So I'm just going to do the first 2 lines again. It should have been obvious when he couldn't even stand up.
It should have been obvious when he couldn't even stand up.
It should have been obvious when he couldn't even stand up.
Right, so we all have our own ways into it. And obviously this means there's a bit of improvisation in these vocalizations, right? And that the thing that is holding it together is that the text, we're never going to change the text. And as you'll see, they have the indications of 30 seconds. No matter what, it's got to fit in that amount of time. Okay, so we then have one more character, which is the journal character. Crash, as an opera, we're not getting you synopses of anything, is basically an autobiography of Bob, where there is a journal, 30 seconds for each year of his life. And so in this journal, he's going through each year. And one of the things that really shows up vocally is that there's this vocal tick, this kind of stop or this interruption or this wait. And again, we all interpret it in slightly different ways, and the difference of that interpretation, I think, is part of the strength of the musicality of it. So if you just have the first 2 lines, for me, I would do, I don't know what you can say about your first year.
I don't know what you can say about your first year.
I don't know what you can say about your first year.
Right, so we all handle it slightly differently. Okay, so those are the soloist characters. We're going to move on to the chorus, because we're going to get all of you guys involved in the chorus. So if you keep going forward in your handout, the chorus has 3, normally this is 3 chorus members. Instead, we're going to make this a true choral piece, and we're going to break the audience up into 3 sections. Each different section will have its own text and its own relationship to rhythm. So hopefully all of you can see something in the handout. We'll start by putting it up here, but eventually we're going to do all of them, so we won't have them up there. I'm going to run us through the first one, which is the duple. Can I just have people in this middle section be on duple with me.
We
yeah?
have like 4, 4, and 4 rows. There's 12 rows across, if you want to do it that way.
Sure. Yeah, if that feels confusing from inside the crowd.
If you're on the 2 middle rows, then you're in the middle. And if you're not in the 2 middle rows, then you're on this side or that side.
Yeah. Yeah, sound good? Yeah, great. So we all understand what's going on. So we're going to start with just you guys near this aisle. And so Crash, where Perfect Lives was in 72, Crash is in 60. And we'll get to how that interacts with the stopwatch after we've started this vocalization. But it just means that okay, I should explain this better. You'll see that year 1, it's the text, it says repeat 15 times. You can either repeat it 15 times, or you can just think, I'm gonna say this for a minute over and over again. I found that counting to 15 did not always help my vocal performance, and I paid attention to I'm just doing it for a minute. I'm gonna do all this with you so you can also just follow me. But basically, you're gonna say this over and over again. So let's just try doing this first year 1 together with me snapping somewhere around 60. Yeah, great. So just join me. Ah, those foreigners in our fields. 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 Great. That's beautiful. So you'll probably, with the repetition, you hear that I made up this little melody. And so part of what we're doing when we perform this piece is we are making up those melodies as we go, listening to the other people in the chorus, responding to them, responding to the kinds of harmonic choices we're making. Because this is, unlike Bob's other operas, this is a piece with no orchestration track. We are improvising all of the harmonic pitch material as we go, but using what we know about this vocal technique to do that. Do you want to lead the next one?
Sure. We're going to go to the triplet thing. And I should also note, by the way, that if you look at this text, there is basically no way that you can understand this text if you're listening to the piece on the recording or live. It's many things happening at the same time, so this is probably the first time, even if you've listened to Crash a lot, you have any idea what we're saying. And that's part of the effect. And so this is part of just like seeing behind the curtain of what is happening in here. These are all kind of short summaries of what's happening in the journal for the corresponding year. So and you have 4 beats to do it for what Gelsey's doing, you have 6 beats for what I'm doing, and you have 8 for what Brian's doing. So you're getting slightly more information from the journal in each of these. So for the 6-beat one, this is, if you're doing the math, this is gonna go 10 times in the span of 1 minute. And the rhythm for this one is, what about afterbirth? Do poor people have afterbirth? So I'm gonna do the same thing.
And I can snap if that's helpful.
Thank you, appreciate it. Okay, so I'm gonna just give you 3 and then we'll come in. So 1, 2, 3. What about afterbirth? Do poor people have afterbirth? What about afterbirth? Do poor people have afterbirth? Cool, yeah, my conducting was screwed there. But yes, Brian,
Naturals.
take it away.
We have a question.
Because I didn't think about it. I would have done it in 6/4 if I were really thinking about it. My apologies.
It's a good question.
Yeah, and there's lots of great questions like that come up with doing this work. It's part of the fun. So let's put up the next one that we're gonna do. So the next one that we're gonna do is basically the same thing, but I'm gonna teach you all a trick that I use with almost all of this work, almost all of it, which is that if you look at your hands, you can see that each finger has little lines, right? Like every finger, if you have all your fingers. Sorry if anybody doesn't have all their fingers. Didn't mean to remind you. So if you can count with your thumb 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So you've got up to 16 like built in to your hand right here. So a lot of times when I'm doing this stuff, especially for this one, I do this in performance all the time. I count to 8 because if you do this 8 times, it says 7.5, but 8 usually works out just about right. While you're doing it, you just count each time by moving your thumb along your hand, and it's a great way to keep track. So in that last episode, the bar, for example, it's in 7. You can count 7 on your hand. Makes it super easy. Anyway, if y'all find that fun, it really works for me. So let's try this thing. So just about 60. I'll give us 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we'll try to read it as written. And we won't go too much into, this seems pretty clear, actually. And you'll hear how I do it, so you can just follow me. Like Kelsey was saying, we kind of develop our own interpretations of these things. So 1, 2, 3, 4. One woman said she prayed for menopause, so there wouldn't be any more. One woman said she prayed for menopause, so there wouldn't be any more. One woman said she prayed for menopause, so there wouldn't be any more. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Beautiful. Okay, we're going to put all these together now. So we always have it where whoever has the duple kind of starts off, and then the other chorus members join from there. In this large choral version of this, just follow your choral leader in figuring out where to start. Do we have any questions before we do this? Yeah? A duple is just the, those foreigners in our field. So just mean it's in 2. Yeah. First one we done. Yeah. It's a good question. Yeah? There are no more handouts, so if you can share with each other. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna keep snapping, and just so you know, the snapping is something we only do when we're rehearsing it. When we do this in performance, the snap goes away.
No snap.
I know, indeed. Okay, so here we go. We're just doing the first year, all of them together.
Yep. Yeah. And the entrances will be somewhat staggered.
Yes, and the entrances will be staggered, so follow your leader. Yeah.
I'll give you a big signal, promise.
Okay. Those foreigners in our fields. Those foreigners in our fields. Those foreigners
what
in
about
our fields. Those
Do poor people
foreigners in
have
our
afterbirth?
fields.
One woman said she prayed for menopause, so there wouldn't be any more.
Afterbirth?
One woman said she prayed for menopause, so there wouldn't be any more.
Poor people.
One woman said she prayed for menopause, so there wouldn't be any more.
Afterbirth, what?
Okay, great. How was that? Sound good out here.
Right?
Okay, beautiful. Okay, we're gonna take. Oh, we have a question. Yeah.
Sorry, I have a question.
That's great.
What is your experience as performers like in terms of, as you're going along, thinking about the meaning of the words or phrases versus like the musical or rhythmic like production of them?
Yeah, we might have different feelings about this. I guess for me, the meaning is always important. It's always present, and it's always helping me make sense of how I want to improvise things musically. And all of these lines in these chants that we're doing are all taken from what's happening in the solo. So the solo is really what's giving the storytelling, and there are wonderful moments in the piece where the solo that line will happen at the same time it's happening in the chant, and there will be this kind of reflective, echoey nature that happens. So the chant, in my mind, really is supporting the soloist's storytelling. Yeah, you want to add anything?
Yeah, no, and I think it's a feedback circle. I think that when you're the soloist, you key into what's happening in the development rhythmically and harmonically and melodically of the chorus and vice versa. So it's a kind of a beautiful feedback loop.
And I would also piggyback on that and say that all of Robert Ashley's work, for the most part, especially these pieces that are super focused on words, like Crash, is kind of a theater of the mind. So I try not to let the meaning overwhelm me, if that makes any sense, and try to focus on delivering things as clearly and articulately as possible so that people can then hear it.
Yeah, just hearing all three at once, it was hard for me to, doing it, it was hard for me to follow. Are the underlying beats of all three parts lining up?
They should be.
Sometimes.
This is why we have to rehearse.
Sometimes.
Yeah. The pulse for all of us should be the same.
Pulse is lined up, but
Pulse is the same.
But the meter is not.
Exactly. So we're in different meters. So where we feel the pulses in our line, like where there's a phasing thing that happens.
Absolutely. And I should also mention that there's the three of us actually are one chant orchestra for this piece. And then there's another set of three, one of which is here, that do this in a little bit different way. That pays more attention to this pulse, but it should be the same across.
Yeah.
So we want to add soloists?
Yeah. So the next question is, does anyone want to try out these solos? We can have 3 people come and try out the solos now. Yeah, come on up.
Yeah.
We're going to have to bring this down. 2 other people want to come on up. You have the handout. Take the handout. One more. There we go. Great. Who wants to try the thought? Yeah? Or should I just assign parts? Do you want to be our thought? Okay. So here, we're going to go back to the solos. So then you'll be thought number 1. Okay. And then also thought number 2. Okay. Let's give you the crash. Okay. So that is crash 1, and then on next page you'll get crash 2. And so we're going to give you the journal.
Great.
Okay. So part of the key with all of these is, I see what happens. Okay. Part of the key with all of these is the paragraph that you guys have, you are singing all of that in 30 seconds. So we're going to add a stopwatch that is going to, so when we do this piece, all 6 of us have stopwatches. And we are using the stopwatch because the piece is in tempo equals 60. We're using the stopwatch. Yeah, do what you got to do to see what you need to see. We're using the stopwatch to, like, basically as a visual metronome, right? The soloists are you are going to find that some of these solos are easy to put in 30 seconds, and some of them you might find that you, trying this for the first time, you don't get it all in there. That's okay, we're just trying it out, we're just giving you a chance to try it. What else do I need to say? So normally we would all have our own stopwatch. Seems best that we just have one stopwatch for the whole room for now. Those of you in the chorus, I think use the 3 of us as the leaders to follow us in where we are, as opposed to needing to worry about the beat on the stopwatch. Does that make sense? Yeah. The other thing that we're gonna do the first 3 minutes of this opera. So that means that our chants are gonna change. So after doing the first chant for a minute, you're gonna switch to the next chant, or in the case, or you might decide, as opposed to thinking in terms of minute, you're thinking in terms of repetition. So like for Brian's, there are 8 repetitions of your chorus. You're gonna also follow us. So if we move to the next chant, move with us. We're just trying this out. It's not gonna be perfect, and that's cool. We're all gonna get a sense of what goes into putting a piece like this together. Do we have any questions before we start?
And what page are you going off of?
So for you, you are doing the chant with Brian. So you're gonna want to be on the page that has that chant. That's to be the last page of the crash.
Does the punctuate anything? Just the end of the paragraph?
It's just the end of the paragraph.
Okay, because they were doing it after the 2 lines.
Just to show it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we just wanted to give you an example.
You did.
Any other questions before we do that?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, great. Okay, so probably when I'm getting ready to change chants, I'm gonna give like a hand signal, like we're about to go forward, and then do it. Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, I
Sound
like
good?
this. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll do this
Sorry,
and I'm gonna
better
change too.
clarify.
Yeah.
Duple,
Yeah, yes.
So yeah,
but
triple.
here.
Sure, but also if you would rather do it
quadruple.
with this, our group, you totally
No,
can.
no, I'm happy. I just.
Yeah.
The
Yes.
soloists are sequential, right? Our parts are sequential, right? 30, 30, 30.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The slash and the space.
Yeah. The slash almost, in fact, in the 4-beat chant, the slash always occurs on the downbeat. So that's the only difference.
Is the space something?
Is this what? Sorry?
There's like, some of them have like space.
Yeah, so the space is kind of a guide that Bob is giving you to give you an idea of roughly how much time you should take. So you could read, for example, one woman said she prayed. Or you could go, one woman said she prayed. The space gives you both options. That's all it is.
Yeah. So
So
just
convenient.
listen to us, and we'll find an option together. And when we're in rehearsals, which we spend many hours, many hours, figuring out exactly make those decisions together, basically. So we're definitely doing this quick and dirty.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Okay,
So
great.
the metronome is effectively the second number in the middle here. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Making sense?
So that's how we count to
Great.
60.
And just so you know, as our first soloist, I'm going to only start the chorus halfway through your paragraph.
Okay.
So you're just going to start going, and then we will start underneath you at some point. Okay, beautiful. Let's do it.
For a long time, he's been fighting the possibility that the idea truly works only for him, and that it's not just a superstition. The idea is that all humans are governed by cycles of fortune and misfortune that come from somewhere, not from our actions. The cycle for the masculine part of us is 14 years. The cycle for the feminine part is 10 years. We don't know where the cycles come from. Yeah. It's just an idea that has made him think a lot about why it should be and how perfectly it fits his history. But when he thinks such things, he realizes that his obsession would be called a superstition. Yeah. This is just a note about superstitions. What to watch out for is any hint of a superstition in your thinking. If you think the way he thinks, it's hard to be friends with scientists. Scientists are important to him.
I don't know what you can say about your first year.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, so I didn't know.
Miscommunication, but it's going to be great. So basically,
I wait for him. I wait
yeah.
for the
So you're doing this first one, and then she's doing the next one.
Oh, much
and
better.
He's doing the next one. All goes in order.
I didn't realize that.
No, it's all good.
Thank
It's all
you.
good. How did that feel? It felt like we got started well. Yeah. Great. So let's do it again. Here we go.
Again?
Oh, it's fine. I just try to like be
Yeah,
like.
I know. I was like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Okay, here we go. We're going to start it again. You ready?
Yes. For a long time, he's been fighting the possibility that the idea truly works only for him, and that it's not just a superstition. The idea is that all humans are governed by cycles of fortune and misfortune that come from somewhere, not from our actions. The cycle for the masculine part of us is 14 years. The cycle for the feminine part is 10 years. We don't know where the cycles come from. Yeah.
It should have been obvious when he couldn't even stand up in front of the high school assembly without holding on to a chair and another guy. And so it was assigned to a remedial public speaking class taking place at lunch hour. And so displacing lunch, that something was wrong, seriously wrong.
I don't know what you can say about your first year. The women don't like it much, I think. But of course, you always hear about the foreign women who came here to have a better life for herself and her kids. she gives birth while she's squatting in the field working, and she doesn't give it another thought. You think that's strange, then it comes to you that this is the way we think about all poor people. Poor people are always happy to have what they have. At 2 years old, I got electrocuted. I was a baby sitting in water in an iron tub on a metal table. There's an electric wall plug right there, and wham! Next thing is that some part of me is up in the upper southwest corner of the room, watching my mother and my grandmother shaking my body and crying. I keep wondering why the upper southwest corner. The other day I read about a man who got electrocuted by accident. He said he was in the upper southwest corner.
It's just an idea that has made him think a lot about why it should be, and how perfectly it fits his history. But when he thinks such things, he realizes that his obsession will be called the superstition. Yeah. This is just a note about superstitions. What to watch out for is any hint of a superstition in your thinking. If you think the way he thinks, it's harder to be friends with scientists. Scientists are important to some of us. They are the priests of our time. Maybe you believe in priests. Yeah.
Which turned out to be, after study and further adventures, a fear of people who are important to some people, many people, a fear of people barely known, and a fear of a large number of people, a fear of the sort that has a name among psychologists and that can cause a lot of problems.
When you do the whole opera, it's a whole. I was talking beforehand. One of the things in the notes that Bob has is that. What was the term? You can get woozy.
Yeah.
Spacey.
Space.
It makes you spacey. So you can imagine, having just done 3 minutes of this, when you do 15 minutes of it, you get a little spacey. So it's also why every act you alternate between doing solos and chorus so that you can survive. Okay, do we have any questions about that before we move to another example? Yeah.
When there's a rest on the downbeat, is it always like a specific amount? Like, is it always the eighth or a quarter?
No.
No, it is not.
No.
Nope.
It could be like a 16th rest and then
Could be
Yep,
anything.
it totally could be.
just depending on whatever comes after it.
Exactly. Yeah. If the question was, if when you have a rest on a downbeat, is it always the same rhythm, or are there different rhythms that can come after? And yes, there are different rhythms that can come after. And the decisions about what rhythms we pick have to do with how the words flow out of our mouth, and also if we're doing a revival, how the original cast did it. Yeah, Mimi.
Is it clear, did you make it clear to the audience that your voices are being mixed and amplified?
Oh yeah, sure.
The soloist voices are much more front and center.
Yes.
The chorus is way down.
This is a great point coming from Mimi Johnson, who is Bob Ashley's widow and has done so much to continue these revivals of this work. When we do this in performance, everything is on microphones and is mixed beautifully and precisely. And so the soloists are heard very well under the quiet orchestration of 3 voices doing this chorus part, not, 60 or 80 voices. So yeah, we didn't get a true mix of what this is, but you got to feel it in your throat instead. Yeah.
When you're developing your performance of a solo, how consistent is your delivery of your part, like night to night over the course of performances? Like, are you trying to develop a precise, like, repetition of how you emphasize syllables and things like that, or is it often like more improvised kind of performance?
I think it's different person to person and section to section. I feel like having done Crash, like we just did a revival of Crash, 2 years ago in Ireland after having premiered the piece 12 years ago. And there were certain sections that I just definitely did in a very similar way. And I think part of it is my ear had gotten really used to this melding of the melody that I was doing in my speech song and what the words were doing. But then there are other sections that are just totally different every performance. Yeah, so I think it really just depends on the section. And certainly in the chorus, with the way the three of us are interacting, I mean, obviously the exact pitches we do are different every night, right? Like there's no piano or anything that we have to tune to, so it's just whatever pitches come out of us. But also the way we decide to interact harmonically is just very different every night. Yeah, other questions? Okay, I say we keep going. Now the complexity will further develop.
Hi again. So we are going to keep going with a lot of the impetus of what you were just doing as the chorus, looking at these rhythmic phrases notated in these particular ways. We're going to go back in time to the 80s and 90s, and we're going to go to a series of operas, 4 operas called Now Eleanor's Idea, which are Improvement, Now Eleanor's Idea, Foreign Experiences, and El Aficionado. Specifically, we're going to start with Improvement. Improvement was the first of these created, and it was created to tape. It was then performed in a way where the tape was played back and people just sort of performed on top of it. And in this case, you, like Perfect Lives, have a chorus and a lead vocalist. And before we even think too much about it, because I think we have some potentially good momentum coming from the Crash thing that we were just doing, let's just look at this chorus on the top of the page. Now, from the opera to opera, things are notated differently. In this case, the chorus parts are all in caps, and the solo parts are not. So just the first 6 lines are this chorus part. Like in Perfect Lives, everything in this opera is 72 beats per minute. And the meter is either 3/4 or 4/4. In this act, it is in 3/4. So we're going to dissect this, but before we dissect it, let's just hop right in and try to do the first 6 lines here together. I'm going to conduct in 3/4, and I will give you 3 beats. I'm going to take this microphone off the stand. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Back home, some days, she pretends she's someone else. That was like, for a first pass, that was awesome. Things are starting to cohere. And I want to come back to your question over here of how do we know which specific rhythms? Now, part of the reason why this notation is here is some of the people in the ensemble, when this was being created, read standard Western notation. Some people did not. And so to write it all out in, quavers and semi-demi quavers and whatever would have been useful for some people and not for other people. So it was an expedient, in part, to show where the stress of the beat would be, even though you're not necessarily stressing that as a performer, and then have a guiding track demo in some cases. Like, for instance, in Foreign Experiences, Sam Ashley, who was the lead performer, there's a track that's just Sam reading through the entirety of everything. So if you're ever unsure, how do I say this? You go to the track, you check, you see what Sam said. And for us as performers, coming to this music when there already are 1 or more recorded versions, like Gelsey was saying before, sometimes that's how we litigate these things. Sometimes it's about finding the particular speech that feels good to us as performers. Sometimes it's about finding the particular vowels, the particular rhythms that were true for Bob or the other original performers. So the basic rhythms, if you were to minutely notate the speech that I'm giving you right now, you would get maybe all sorts of complex polyrhythms and nested tuplets and whatever. But generally here, these are fairly straightforward. So the rhythm that you all just did kind of instinctively, back home, 2 pretty even beats there, right? Some days, pretty even. She pretends, there's a little bit of acceleration. She's someone, again, it's a little denser, it's more accelerated, and else is just the 1 syllable. So if the 3 of us were to, the 6 people performing this were to start to approach this in a way where we all just did it the way that was natural to us, it would get a little bit crossed up, and it would not necessarily be that clear. We want to emphasize the clarity and deliver the text in the clearest, most legible way possible. So a lot of what we do in rehearsal is we will go over in minute detail, and if there's something that seems to Kelsey wants to say it one way, Brian wants to say it another, I want to say it a third way, we're just going to agree upon the right rhythm of how to do it. Same thing with vowels, right? 2 very common articles in the English language, the and a. How do you say them? Do you say the or the? Do you say a or a? Every time they come up, we have to check and say which is more appropriate. And it's not always the same, right? Whatever your accent is, you might say things different depending on the word that's before or after them, or what you want to emphasize. And the other thing about so much of this that is particularly special about Bob's music is that sometimes the emphasis is not how you would naturally do it to have sort of formal intonation of syntax that's giving you, based on where my voice is going up and where my voice is going down, you're gleaning things from the meaning or where you're putting stress. So I'm going to jump ahead a little, but we're going to come back to that chorus at the beginning. But sure, yeah. Oh, this is, by the way, my own personal notation for how I marked up this page. You can see on the bottom, I wrote out the rhythms there. I don't normally write out all the rhythms, but it was useful in this particular case. There's a lot of marking up, but you can also see like back home. I put a stress mark on the back because often you might say back home, right? But in this case, I just want to make sure that I'm saying back home. And I'm not, like, if we go back to the She Was a Visitor example, it's not like musically I'm doing that, but I want to make sure that I'm not tricking my mind into being like, emphasize what you would normally emphasize in speech. But like just this line at the first line in the bottom chorus, on the third call, the, on, the, and call all are getting underlines, which means they're all getting stresses, which is not normally the words that you would emphasize to like forward the semantic meaning of what's going on there. So, the other thing that is now very different in this than in Crash is that we are on a click track. Kelsey and Brian, Brian mentioned it before. When we were demonstrating Perfect Lives, we were demonstrating this pulse with a piano. The cue for all of this stuff is happening in our ears. If you've seen us perform it here, we have information that we are getting in our ears. It's not from a live instrument. It is a playback track that Tom Hamilton, our wonderful music director and engineer and making many musical decisions in the live performance, hits play at the beginning of the performance, and that is it. We get one chance. Like, if you...
The train has left the station.
The train
you
leaves
gotta
the station.
stay on the train.
We do. Brian's going to show you a little bit. We're going to listen to this in a moment, but once the thing starts playing, all of the harmony, all of the rhythm in the backing tracks, and the effects are all tied to where we are. And sometimes there's a stretch where it's just one person going without a lot of other guideposts for a long stretch of time. So if you are one line too early or one line too late, and then you get to a chord change, or someone else is supposed to enter, then they have to actually enter. They have to cut you off, because if you don't, then you're performing everything to the wrong accompaniment, right? So this is very different from Crash. Crash is just this free thing where we're all going complementarily in our own way. But this is now the system, starting with improvement, that is in place for these pieces through Celestial Excursions.
Can I just add that part of this means this system was kind of developed in the early 80s. So even though we have technology now where we could use QLab and like someone could follow along, they didn't have that technology back then. So like you establish it with the track and the click track, and that's how we have continued to do these operas from the 80s, 90s, and 2000s.
Yeah. So let's go back to that chorus, and we're going to introduce the track to the chorus. And this is in your handout too, the Back Home Some Days part. So part of what is a lens that we want to give you to take home is that when you go back and you listen to these operas, whether it's Perfect Lives or Improvement, Foreign Experiences, there is a strong beat that is going through all of these operas. And sometimes compositionally, Bob has made it easy to hear that beat, and sometimes it's very obscured. We're starting with this chorus in part because it's one where you can really hear the rhythm pretty easily. So again, without talking too much about it, Brian, can you give us one bar for nothing?
Yep.
And we're all gonna come in at bar 493 for Back Home. You're gonna hear a pitch, which is giving you the reference pitch. And also when the speaker changes, goes from chorus to a solo speaker, or when the chord changes, that pitch will change. So we're gonna get 3 beats, and the third beat is going to be the pitch that we are gonna come in on. But don't worry too much about the pitch right now. If you wanna speak, that's fine. If you wanna sing, that's fine too.
Okay.
So here we go.
So we'll start at 492.
Yes, please. Back home, some days, she pretends she's someone else. Great. Questions? Cool. Yes, Rosa.
This is sort of back to what the underlines are indicating.
Yeah.
So are they purely time markers, or are they also emphasis markers? And
Purely time, not emphasis. Not emphasis, very strongly not emphasis.
So
I'm thinking about she's someone there, where I would put the stress on the some.
yeah, part of like getting in the habit of performing this music is going against the instinct. You want to be like, I want to deliver, as if you're coming from an acting point of view, right? Like you're like, well, this is the most important word in the sentence. This is where the meaning is. But part of performing this is getting away from those instincts and sort of trusting the way that it's constructed, that it's like, I'm emphasizing that in the sentence, or I'm emphasizing some word that feels non-structural. And like I invite you with the materials that you have here to just try speaking these things, and it becomes a very interesting exercise if you're not used to it. Yeah.
You were talking about like how this notation was useful for people who like maybe didn't have the same musical background. In terms of like who became the chorus in the past versus like how you're assembling yourself now, like are there qualities you're looking for in like voice or background in terms of how you're assembling?
Sure. The question, if you didn't hear, is about training and who was performing these pieces before versus who's performing these pieces now. This is a more complex question. I think that like the way that the old band, the band that was doing these pieces originally came together is a few different things. Like Jackie Humbert was a singer who had released records, but was doing costumes in Perfect Lives. But Bob liked the sound of her voice. Thomas Buckner had a whole career of his own in California before moving here and becoming part of the band. Joan LaBarbera had worked with Philip Glass and many other people in the 70s. People had their own trajectories, and Sam Ashley was Bob's son. For us as an ensemble, the 5 of us in Verispeed, the 3 of us, Eliza and Paul, came together kind of in an ad hoc way. 4 of us were performing together, and we just decided we wanted to do this music, and then Bob invited us to be part of that morning thing. We did some of these pieces with Amrtha Kadambi too, who's a friend of ours. Some of that was just kind of social. Some of the productions since then, pretty much everybody who has come in since 2018, 19, 20, thereabouts, is someone who has more formal training. So we obviously all have different backgrounds, but for the most part, the people doing it in this newer generation are coming from a place of more formal musical training.
But the original band had formal training too.
Except for Jackie and Sam. Yeah. Okay, so to come back to the chorus. We did pretty good on that top part, but now let's try this bottom part, which is harder. But I have faith in us because we've been working on this. So, Brian, can you hit us with measure 5-10?
Absolutely.
We're going to have one bar for nothing. I'm going to take my mic off the stand. And we are going to try, when we go back to this, it's in your handout, to just get through this chorus together.
Okay. Ready? All right, 5-10, here we go.
On the third call, she's told that Don has been seen on the road with Eleanor and talk locally is that they're headed for Mexico. More of this later.
Great. That was darn good for just your first try of this.
Have you heard this one before?
Yeah. Talk locally is that they're headed for Mexico is a setup for the whole opera of Foreign Experiences. That's a little plot connection for you. But when you go to my thing with the notation, thank you, Brian, you will see that there's some triplets written here. And this is quite lovely. This is just like a really nice musical decision. So you switch from with Eleanor and talk locally is that they're headed for Mexico. So the way that it's done on the original version, which we did as well, is that you're switching back and forth between these 16th, 8th, 16th, 8th rhythms and these triplet rhythms. It's not always necessarily like the most easy, consistent, expedient way. There's some way that Bob created this, that the ensemble created this, that plays with it, that keeps the rhythm kind of fresh so that you're not just having these long stretches with the same rhythm over and over again. Anything else that either of you want to add about this? No? Okay. So for the sake of time, we're going to just put this whole page together. And I'm going to ask for one more volunteer. Yes, please. Come on up. And here's the part that we're not going to focus on, but just to open up a window into other things that you can look into. This middle section, awesome. This middle section is marked Linda. And it doesn't just mean that it's beautiful. What we're saying is that the meter is, the rhythms are specifically notated for the top and the bottom. And in the middle section, you just have 3 beats to say each of these lines. It's kind of easy. It's harder than it seems initially, though, right? So we're going to just play this whole thing. We're going to hear the click for the first 6 lines, and then there's going to be a different pitch. And that pitch is just a suggestion for you that you can situate your performance on. There's not a specific pitch that you have to sing this on. It's just sort of, here's some information for you.
I use the term anchor pitch, that we have this anchor pitch that we can kind of play with, and whatever you're doing, it's in relation to that.
Great terminology. So there's 12 lines that are Linda solo. And just because you are the chorus doesn't mean you can stop paying attention, because like I said before, the click starts and then it only keeps going forward. So you have to be ready for when it comes back in on the third call. And of course we will help you do this because this is your first time doing it. But this is what we're going to try and do. We're going to try and execute this whole page with Linda in the middle and the chorus around it. So Brian, can we start at 492, please?
Absolutely. And for those of you using my finger technique, it's going to be 3 fingers because it's 12 measures.
Yeah, and maybe just to add, when I'm doing this in performance, I'm doing this the whole time. Like, it's just under the table. No one can see it. Hopefully you don't see it at my shoulder, and I'm just keeping the rhythm in my fingers.
Okay, here we go.
492, right?
Yeah.
Great. All right, 3 beats for nothing. Here we go.
Back home, some days,
3.
she pretends she's someone else.
Hello? No. I mean, no, it's not she. No. No. She has hasn't been at this number in some time? No. I wish I could help you. No. Of course. Yes. Goodbye. On the third call, she's told that Dom has been seen on the road with Eleanor, and talk locally is that they're headed for Mexico. More of this later.
Great. Let's give a hand for our soloist. So you can see there's decision, right? When you have the word no and you have 3 beats, you have a lot of space where to put it. It's tempting to just put it right on the downbeat and say no, but again, that's something to play with. There's no one right answer. To move on and just give you just the smallest taste of where this goes, because that was a very straightforward example. If you listen to Foreign Experiences, it's very fast, it's very dense. It's 90 BPM instead of 72 BPM. And gosh, it's just so dense. So this is a little bit from the first act of Foreign Experiences. The chords are changing. Every time a different person enters, the pitch changes, and all the rhythms are specific. So we're gonna play you a version of the original septet performing it with the click superimposed on top of that. Just think, if you go back and listen to these things, that the click is there all the time. You aren't able to hear it, but this is just a little taste of what it would sound like if you could hear the performers and the click at the same time.
And I see why. This is difficult terrain, hillbilly madness. Middle-aged man lives alone in a shit apartment across the courtyard with an artificial larynx. Down below, the neighbor has a bar self-standing, and he plays disco records until late hours. Donna Summer and Al Green, without the words, just strong beats. End of scene 6. This one's for Carl. Welcome to El Dorado. A man is seated at his desk. Looking over his shoulder, we see the telephone cradled to his ear. He's calling someone.
It rings on the other end. Answer, hello, Scorpio. This is Long Future.
Today's another big one. You might get killed.
So, go listen to Foreign Experiences if you like that. That's the formal end of this section, but questions on all of this dense stuff before we move on? Yes?
This kind of like notation, like system of like beat and text and all that, but with some of his other works, like say tap dancing in the sand or something like that, or he's mixing with the instrumentals too. Does this use the same like nomenclature, or is it mixing?
There's different, so this is more for the operas. Tap Dancing in the Sand, which Gelsey and I have performed with our group Thing NY. Part of that is, that one has much more detailed harmonic information. The chords are laid out very specifically. And the specific rhythms, it's more about the speaker.
God, I can't remember what the score looks like.
I think it's less underlined for that one, and it's more like you get the contour, and then the instruments are supposed to kind of mirror what that contour is doing. So not everything that he did after 1985 or something looks this way at all.
Yeah, and part of it is all the scores look differently. Hopefully you're seeing that range. And obviously in this example, the harmonic information is very clear and very set, right? So, that happens in those also.
Is there any information given ever about how loudly or softly to do things?
There's not dynamic markings in these pieces.
There's not dynamic markings, but I would say that depending on the piece, like Crash, for instance, we're told in the introduction at the beginning that the whole piece should be quiet. And that's part of it is also the technique with the microphone and the speaking quietly very close to a microphone and leaving a lot of artistry to the sound engineer of how they interact with that.
Yeah, and I think like Foreign Experiences is a piece with huge dynamics. It's not written in, but because of the backing track, because of the text and everything, like there's a great part in Act 4 where it goes from being the voice, it's the same performer, but it's the voice of the kind of spirit guide giving this important lecture back to the narrator. And he has this realization, he's like, I came all the way for this? And if you did that part at the same volume as the other thing, it wouldn't come through. And part of it is just listening to the other performances, but there's still room within that to find your own way through it.
Sorry. So sorry, was there another question?
Maybe?
Yeah, I guess that's kind of an observation / question. So it seems to me like there's like a lot of interpretation with these scores. You spend a lot of time in rehearsal, like figuring out how you're going to perform them as a collective. There's a lot of like variance, able to be in the score. At the same time, they're very like electronic. There's electronic backing. You guys listen to recordings which are made electronically to kind of get an understanding. So that's an observation. I guess my question is, as a performer, how does it land for you? Do you feel like you're inside of like an electronic opera or like an opera, or is it something that you're cognizant of, like the electronic aspect of it?
I mean, we're certainly cognizant of the orchestration.
Yeah.
I feel like, for me personally, the fact that it's electronic versus acoustic instruments doesn't make it feel any different to me than when I do an opera with a live band, in all honesty.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what other.
Because it's just like, to me, it sounds so different performing with electronic things than non-electronic things. So I was just curious.
I mean, yeah, I think pre-recorded versus not pre-recorded is a bigger difference for me. So you know that the track is going to be the same every night, but also in what we're doing, Tom adds effects that do change every night.
Okay.
So there is something that breathes from that. We don't necessarily hear the effect, like for monitoring purposes, we hear the clean signal. We hear the dry signal. The audience hears the affected signal. So we can barely just play with that if we can hear it from the house, but that's more on that side than that side. That's Tom's artistry.
Yeah, and in the later operas, it definitely feels like you're collaborating with Tom.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
great. Great, you can hear the processing happening in the room. So to answer your question from my perspective, yeah, it's very different from being in any other work. I wouldn't say that it's just like being in just any opera or just any piece. It's a very special thing, which brings us to Celestial Excursions, which is the last thing we'll do today. This is the last thing. And this is a picture of the old band doing Celestial Excursions. We just did this one at the end of last year, right here on this stage. And you'll hear, we're gonna try doing a little bit of this together, and I won't belabor the notation. But I will play for you the click right now so we can just listen to it, because the click for this opera is a little different than the rest of them.
109, 110, 11, 12, 13, 114, 115.
So this click could be its own album.
116,
so beautiful.
17.
And you can hear it's a lot faster.
18,
100 beats per minute.
19, 120.
And yet somehow
21,
there's space in it.
22, 23,
So
24, 25.
And now here's where the incomparable Blue Jean Tyranny would be taking a solo. And it's easier to tell where you are, right? Because you can hear him saying the numbers of each measure.
31,
31, 32.
33.
So I'd like to try, sorry for the horrible DJing there. So I'd like to try doing this together. We're not going to pay attention to the chorus versus soloist dichotomy that's present here. We're just going to read all the words. And I say that, but don't read the words that say blue solo and end blue solo, just in case. And I want us just to read it through with Bob's click, and then I'll go over to the piano and I'll play with us, and that should be fun. Here we go. She asked me to write a love letter. Something she can hide in her shoebox in the drawer. No names, no promises, just something she could look at to remind her what the day is for. Lonely lady, middle of the afternoon. Lonely lady, come in feeling blue.
21,
Love letter on a paper napkin, folded, addressed to you.
23,
Lonely lady.
24, 25,
Loose up.
26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32,
Okay, here we go.
33,
How precious you are.
35,
I mean to thee.
36, 37,
How priceless
38,
you are.
39,
Will always be.
40, 41,
How special
42,
you are.
43,
No one can see.
44,
But I'll keep it a secret.
47,
I'll keep it a secret.
49,
I'll keep it a secret.
51,
Sincerely.
52, 53.
Yeah. Beautiful, guys. Isn't that fun?
Okay, we're gonna do one more with piano, also with the click, and now you know that we were all having Bob in our ear as we were doing it. I want to just mention one thing that we didn't say ahead of time, which is on the second column, the beginning of those lines always start on the and of two.
Well, for the first half. This is part of why we didn't explain it, because it's kind of complicated.
Before we get to I'll Keep It a Secret, you mean? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we almost made a new score for this for you guys, but we figured part of this is learning that a lot of this work on this music is interpretation and past experience. And
Right, and
performance practice.
And performance practice. So
Yeah.
there's definitely notes that we know, you can hear it in the click track, right, what's happening harmonically. And when you listen to the recording, there's very clear notes that you're singing, but we're not going to take the time to teach you those different parts. Mimi, did you want to add something?
It's not on this page, but many times he does write out the musical notation.
Yeah.
For the tune, for example, how precious you are. I mean, that's.
Yeah. So often in Bob's operas, there's like a tune or a song, in which case we'll have that notated. And that's not open for improvisation. That's a very set thing harmonically. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and that's also why we chose this examples, because you can hear the harmony really well. Go ahead, sorry.
I just had a question about in the most recent production of Celestial Excursions, how did you select an actor or performer, musician to play Bob?
So
That's a question for Mimi.
yeah, Mimi was the producer. So as far as we know, Mimi made that decision. We can't really speak to that.
Oh, it's Brian.
It was because I was from Michigan, wasn't it?
It was just a decision like that. I just felt like Tom Hamilton and I talked about your voices and your characters and the way you were in the world, and we just seemed like Bob, that he seemed to be the right choice to be Bob.
There we go.
I mean, I don't know, it's a subjective, totally subjective.
Yeah, totally.
Dave,
Yeah.
you've been Bob before, too.
It's true.
Yeah, well, he bounces around depending on the opera. Yeah. For sure.
Just like in his work, yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. I mean, and again, I feel like if this isn't clear already, part of this also comes from the social community that this work is made in, and that we're lucky to be part of that community.
And so
Okay,
excited
so
for the
we're going
gala.
to do all of this one more time now with piano. Any other questions before we do? Kind of as a final song that we can all sing together.
Ready?
109.
She asked me to write a love letter.
Love letter.
11.
Something she can hide in a shoebox in the drawer. No names, no promises, just something she can look at to remind her what the day is for.
17.
Lonely lady, middle of the afternoon.
19.
Lonely lady, coming feeling blue.
21.
Love letter on a paper napkin, folded, addressed to you. Lonely lady. how precious you are. I mean to me, how priceless you are, will always be. How special you are, no one can see, but I'll keep it a secret. I'll keep it a secret. I'll keep it a secret. Sincerely.
Thank you. Give yourselves a hand, please. You have been great Ashley chorus members. You have been great Ashley chorus members. Please give yourselves a hand.
Yeah.
Thank you so much to Matt and everyone at Roulette for having us. And if you want to hear us do more, again, an ad for the gala, we will be performing as Verispeed in 3 and 2 subsections. Love is a good example, and offering of images from Improvement. And there's recordings of us doing some of this stuff online.
Great. We're going to be hanging out. I'm going to be hanging out by these scores. If you want to look at the scores more, please feel free to continue asking us questions.
Yeah, please do.
Thanks for coming out, everyone.
Thank you.